Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It's cold outside, but things are running hot with DOGE. They're running around making a lot of people cry because they're getting fired. And, look, kind of sorry if anyone loses their job. I've been there. That's got to be tough. But what do you think is going to happen? What has to happen to cut the federal budget? What has to happen to make government smaller? People are going to have to lose their jobs. So while, I wish everyone would have zero negative consequences for making the government slimmer and more accountable and hopefully getting somewhere close to balance in the budget. It was kind of expected, kind of known. Your thoughts? 800-288-9227. Gene Granberry, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah. Hey, James. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Kudos to Trump and Musk for getting this done. Finally, it's long overdue. Okay. I'd really like for them to take it a step further and find out who approved this craziness, these funds that are spent, especially overseas. And then when we do find out who approved it, hold them accountable. Everybody wants to see accountability. I do.
Yeah, I love this conversation because it's a little more nuanced than that. I have a feeling most of this stuff that we're finding here that's appalling and should be cut is legal. They say we're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, waste is not illegal. Abuse is not illegal. Fraud is illegal. Fraud is if you said, hey, we're going to take this money and do X, Y, Z with it, but really it goes to another purpose or ends up in my pocket. Or if they say, yeah, they just hired my son for $80,000 a month, even though he has no natural gas experience. And I'm going to get, okay, so that's actually illegal. But this stuff where they say, well, we're going to spend $45 million for a DEI coloring book in Bolivia, I think all that's legal. That's just waste and even abuse. If you overbill Medicare or Medicaid, that's just abuse. I don't even think most of this stuff is illegal.
Well, it may not be illegal, but we certainly have a say-so when it comes time in the voting booth, right?
You're absolutely right. However, we have all gone to the voting booth all our entire lives and just kept the gravy train going for these people. None of the vote at no election in my lifetime have the voters really put their foot down and say, no, you're going to make some cuts or you're out of here. We all, and this is Team Red and Team Blue. The incumbency rate for a congressional election that happens every 2 years is north of 80%. Like, you remember the big bomb election in Obama's first midterm where he lost like 60 seats in the House? Yeah, that means 80% of the incumbents kept their seats. So even in the biggest seat change in your lifetime, it was less than 20% of the seats flip. Once you're in there, you're in there. The voters don't know. The voters, they don't even really care. It's impossible to keep up with at all levels of government. So once your guy on your team is in that seat and has some name recognition, it's really hard to primary them out because it's the same thing that's going on in Austin right now. We keep sending these Team Red guys that go and they split off a few Republicans to side with the Democrats. And then the Texas legislature, at least the House, gets run to the order of what the Democrats want and not the Republicans. And the voters just don't hold them accountable. The Republican voters don't hold them accountable.
Yeah, I get that. We ought to. The Republicans really need to stick together like the Democrats do as far as this straight line voting.
Well, there's also the point of we need to convert some of these people that are just voting Team Blue. We need to figure out what we're doing wrong. And I imagine what would happen if they lose finally the argument on racism and abortion? Like, what else do they run on? Socialism? Hating America? That's not going to cut it. Hating dudes?
Right. Well,
it's on us. We got to primary these. We got to primary the fake Republicans out and convert Democrats as well. I think that's the two angles to solve some of this that you're looking for.
I don't see converting Democrats though. They're
why it happened. I posit that most Republican voters
they don't even want to talk to you. They don't even want to listen to the reason.
Some of them don't.
They won't have the conversation.
Don't blanket them like that, because Joe Rogan had the conversation and he's converted. Elon Musk had the conversation and he's converted. And now I don't know if they've converted, but you've at least seen sympathetic conversations being had with other former Democrat stalwarts like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Tulsi Gabbard, and basically half of Trump's cabinet right now is former Democrats. Robert F. Kennedy, he's on Team MAGA.
I get that. But the thing is, the conversation, like if I have the conversation with friends, I lose friends. I'm not really willing to do that.
Well, if they're not going to be your friend just because you respectfully and with a smile had a conversation about serious political issues, that you're just going to have to plant the seed and hope they come around someday. That's all.
Yeah, that's kind of the political climate that we're in.
Fun conversation, Gene. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
what's the temperature in Granbury right now?
About 22, I believe.
Good Lord. I can't stand that. I can't move any further south. There's nothing south of Texas. I'd have to go to Mexico. I can't stand this. I'm so glad my ancestors left Europe. Could you imagine living in Europe? Like all of Europe is like this for a big chunk of winter. I don't think we realize how north. No, it's not like this in summer. But if you want to realize like how north Europe is to us, just if you look at the latitudes, Rome, which is kind of on a peninsula hanging out the bottom of Europe, is on just about the same latitude as New York City, which is kind of close to the top of our country. So New York City! Most of Canada lives in latitudes that are akin to Canada. I mean, most of the European countries live in latitudes that are akin to Canada. Down here in Texas, we're like, what are we on par with? Like Cairo or Jerusalem or something? We're far south. Anyway, fun conversation. Let's hear some of the success stories about the cuts that we have from the DOGE waste list. I just love hearing this stuff.
$20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal.
Wait a second. Fiscal federalism? What does that even mean? How many millions of dollars?
$20 million.
Dude, if I gave you $1 million, that would change your life. That would change your life, not just for the better. Like you could probably retire tomorrow and still leave a big pile of money to your kids. I mean, this would be intergenerational wealth. We could have done that for 20 families in America. Imagine what that kind of money does in Nepal. I mean, you could win any election in Nepal you wanted to with $20 million, I bet.
For fiscal federalism in Nepal.
Fiscal federalism? What does that even mean?
Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence. In Liberia, $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning.
Do you notice how these all have the buzzwords of your woke friends? Inclusion, diversity, all that. There's not a program where it's like $40 million for people to enhance their gun rights in some third world country like South Sudan. No, nothing right wing. There's no the abortion clinic protesters that's getting $1 million in Sri Lanka. No, nothing like that. No one's advocating for limited government. No. So weird how almost all of these things are you seeing what's going on? All this billions of dollars is not just wasted money. It is a job program for political activists who have dedicated their lives to thwarting your vote and your vision for a worldview. I'm enjoying the cuts here. But my concern is they're not actually cuts yet. Elon Musk doesn't have the authority to make cuts. He's just making recommendations. And so I don't mean to take the fun out of the room here. I don't mean to suck the air out of the balloon. But we have the budget deal to avert the government shutdown a couple months ago. That thing's going to be up at the end of March. And if all this stuff isn't written into law and passed by both the House and the Senate, a lot of these cuts couldn't continue. A lot of these cuts, they have to have congressional backing to go forward. Now, a lot of these people who have already taken their severance and gotten out of here, a lot of these people who have gotten fired, okay, good. Maybe they're not going to come back. But the concern is when Donald Trump's gone and the next Team Blue guy that gets in there, are all these jobs going to come back? How quickly can they come back? How quickly can they just stroke the pen and institute all this spending again? So not only do we need to make the cuts, they need to back it up with legislation. They need to codify it. And then they need to put safeguards going forward so it just can't be struck back up the second you lose the next election. I think that's a huge concern I have with DOGE. Hey, I love hearing the list of all the dumb things that have been cut. And I don't enjoy people losing their job, but I am ecstatic that people are losing their job. It's just an unfortunate reality. If you're going to cut government, people are going to have to lose their job. But I'd also like to see what the landscape looks like once we do cut off all the spending, because so much of this just seems to be like job programs for activists who oppose what you believe politically. Because I'm not hearing any of these programs that are inherently right-wing in nature, and I'm hearing a lot that are left-wing in nature. Are they doing any pro-Jesus operas in Ecuador? Is that what they're doing? Are they doing any pro-gun ownership coloring books in Kosovo or wherever the heck this stuff is going? No, this is the inherent ugliness of so much of what's going on in the Department of Education, so much of what's going on in the Department of Health and Human Services, really all across academia as well. And then USAID on top of that. You knew academia was just a den of Team Blue vipers, but USAID probably about the same. One of the good things that Elon was bringing up is a number that you and I both suspected, but he actually said in the interview with Hannity last night.
What DOGE is doing is illegal. Elon Musk is more street vernacular for a male body part. It's a constitutional crisis.
Okay. Why are they reacting like this?
Well, first of all, do you give a flying rip? Oh, number one, and
well, I guess we must be over the target or doing something right. You know, if like they wouldn't be complaining so much if we weren't doing something useful. I think. What all we're really trying to do here is restore the will of the people through the president. And what we're finding is that there's an unelected bureaucracy. Speaking of unelected, there's a vast federal bureaucracy that is implacably opposed to the president and the cabinet. And you look at, say, DC voting, it's 92% Kamala. Okay, so we're 92% Kamala. That's a lot.
They don't like me here either.
I think about that number a lot. I'm like 92%. That's basically almost everyone.
Think about that. 92% of that money, 92% of that is pretty much fueling political activism against you. And what we've learned is now the majority of the American voter. What is their base going to look like? What is their activism going to look like if we cut the legs out from under it by tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars? What would that look like if this actually cuts and goes through? Do you know how much of your political opposition is just astroturfed? Do you know how much of these protests would not happen without your tax dollars being thrown at all these NGOs, which funnels to some charity, which funnels to some activist group, which funnels to paying people to get on the street and hold signs that they didn't make? They have community organizers. You know that. That was Barack Obama's only job that he listed when he was running for president. What's your profession? You're a community organizer. What is that? Well, they take money that filters through groups. Some of it's donated, I bet, but some of it's your tax dollars. And it gets down to these activist causes. When they're talking about the LGBT coloring book in Venezuela, is that a right-wing cause or is that a left-wing cause? Who's going to administer that? Not just a righty or lefty. It's a lefty who feels so strongly about it. They've dedicated their life to what this is what their profession is going to be. It's their political beliefs. So you're funding that dude? And then what do? Do you think they donate to Rand Paul? You think they donate to Donald Trump? Or you think they donate to people who generally disagree with you? So you're funding them. You're funding. And look, if these people that lose their job, a lot of them are, we have thousands that have already lost their jobs. So a lot of them are going to go out to the private sector, have to find a real job, have to actually be productive, find out how the gravy train doesn't just keep coming no matter what. It is legal to be fired in the real world. You don't have some magical force field around you that protects you from the whims of cost cutting. And a lot of them are going to change their worldview. A lot of them are going to do that natural evolution that so many people do, where you start off kind of on Team Blue, and as you get older, you have a tendency to, as you gain more life experience and learn a little bit more about the real world, you just kind of veer over to Team Red. And one of the things that we're learning over here is there's a weird sense of entitlement with some of these people getting fired. Hannah Hickman was with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, and she was making the case on TV that it is illegal to fire her. That can't be a thing, is it?
I think it's so important for American people to understand what's happening. Their government, their watchdog agencies, the people who go to work every day to fight for them are being fired illegally in what is just a wholesale dismantling of entire agencies.
Now, you're a lawyer and you know firsthand that a lot of this is happening illegally. Explain what we're missing here and how this can happen if indeed what is happening is illegal.
It's a great question, Kira. Civil servants have a lot of protections under the law, and we're only supposed to be fired if our performance falls short on the job. So what has happened is that the administration has fired us.
Cut it off there. Well, that's a terrible system that needs to be changed immediately. So you mean to tell me once we hire someone at the federal level into a job, you're not allowed to fire them no matter what we find out they're doing? No matter what, the dude that makes the coloring books for, I don't know, left-handed people in Nepal, that guy gets to keep his job. No matter what, there's no such thing as wasteful cuts. See, that's not the real world. Dairy Queen is having to close like 24 restaurants in Texas. Why? Because they're not performing. They didn't do anything wrong. It's not like they made the hamburger with the bun on the inside, and so you're firing them for cause. It's just wasteful. You're not getting the proper return on what it's costing. And so this is not the real world, Hannah Hickman. And if she's correct and it is illegal to fire these people or lay them off for cut wasteful spending, well, then that needs to be changed immediately. That is a dumb law. That is a terrible law. It doesn't matter if you get hired by the federal government, you're just calcified into place as long as you don't do nothing wrong until what? Until you die? What a dumb system that is, if that's even true. I doubt it is. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Really, the president can't fire people in the executive branch? That's not what the Constitution says. The Outlaw Music Festival coming to Dos Equis Pavilion July 5th. This is the one with Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. Text OUTLAW for your chance to win a pair of tickets to 800-288-9227. Text OUTLAW at 800-288-9227. Maybe you can win some tickets from us, or you can go ahead and buy some from livenation.com. Coming up next, updates on the polar vortex on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I love watching the reaction to government finally being cut. You know, I've played it on yesterday's show, and I played it on the day before, and I'm sure you've heard on other shows. I know Dan Bongino was playing you Bill Clinton when he was in office bragging about firing 1/3 of the federal workforce in D.C. 380,000 people, federal workers, lost their job under the Clintons. You didn't have 60 Minutes going and doing sob stories with them crying. You heard Obama talking about how he's going to go line by line to earmark reform, cutting the programs that don't work and making sure the ones that do are more efficient. He was proposing a net spending cut. He was going to cut more than he added. No concerns about there. No concerns about, well, every person that loses a job is a family that doesn't know how they're going to put food on the table. Just take it away from them overnight. Joe Biden bragged about cutting government, cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Every president in your lifetime that said they want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. McCain said it. Romney said it. Even the losers were all on board with this. Everyone's on board with it. Until when? Until we actually start cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Isn't that strange? So here's just again, this is what I'm talking about. 60 Minutes having the people crying about losing their job here.
People are really scared. I think that 12 days ago, people knew where their next paycheck was coming from. They knew how they were going to pay for their kids' daycare, their medical bills, and then all gone overnight.
All gone overnight.
So she lied, and then Scott Pelley repeated the lie. It's not all gone overnight. They get 8 months of severance pay. Have you ever lost a job and got 8 months of severance pay? I haven't. You haven't. No one on this floor has. Anyone in your family? So not only are they getting fired and getting paid, they're getting their story told. They're getting all kinds of sympathy. They're getting 60 Minutes to interview them. Did anybody come interview you when you lost your job? Was 60 Minutes concerned about all the people who lost their job over the vaccine mandate? Were there any 60 Minutes crying videos about all the restaurateurs and small business owners who had to shut down under COVID, never to return again? About all the families that were destroyed? About the, how they're going to pay for the daycare and kids' food and tuition? No concern about that? It's amazing how all of your life they said one thing, and now that it's happening, they're acting like it's terrible. They're acting like it's terrible to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Another example on The View. They're concerned suddenly now about Elon Musk getting government contracts. Listen to this.
Let me say someplace that could really use a lot of cutting. Elon has very many what do you call it?
Government contracts. Yeah.
I think, because I don't remember, maybe y'all heard it, but I don't remember looking for an armored car. And I don't remember. I don't care what it looks like. I don't remember asking for it. I don't know why I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I want to know, when did I say, hey, we need another agency next to NASA?
Yeah.
So when did we start paying for his stuff?
You talking about SpaceX overseeing FAA?
No. You know that he's going to be cutting.
Yeah.
NASA.
Yeah.
That's the competition. So what is the real deal here? If we want to cut some money, let's cut some of these. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Whoopi, go do some Google searches because I have the answer for that. When did we start giving Elon Musk government contracts? 2008. 2000. You understand? 2008. So it was the Bush administration still. Obama wasn't in yet, but they had this running prize for whoever could make a reusable rocket first and launch it twice. They were going to get a whatever $1 million contract from the government because the government was looking for alternatives to NASA. Remember, we had the Columbia spacecraft that came back and blew up, the shuttle that blew up over our heads. And right there, after that, a program started to where, hey, you know what? We've been doing this in the government sector this whole time. Time to open it up to the private sector with some incentives. So SpaceX does. They come in and they've taken over a lot of what NASA does because they do it at 1/20th the cost. You understand that? 1/20th the cost. So him getting government contracts was a lot better for the taxpayer than continuing to do this little taxi mission up to the space station through NASA. So he did do us a favor. But Whoopi, I didn't hear you have any concern when he got the contracts in 2008 because you thought he was on Team Blue. You thought, oh, this is the electric car guy? Oh, well, we love him. Oh, the guy that's concerned about global warming? Oh, well, we love him. He donates to Democrats and says nice things about Democrats and campaigns for them. Oh, well, we love him. Then you didn't have any concern about him getting government contracts, whether it's the subsidies for his electric vehicles, the money he got to do Solar City, the government contracts he does to do SpaceX, the government contracts he's getting for the boring company. Not boring, like not interesting, like it bores holes under cities. Anyway, yeah, a lot of his money comes from government contracts, but you didn't care about it through the 8 years of Obama. You didn't care about it through the first Trump term or the Biden term. Now that Elon Musk has attached himself to Trump and is actively participating in Team Red activities, now you have a concern about his government contracts. Well, then that's not an honest concern of yours. You're just going through looking for reasons to try and get people to dislike this guy. But you're a dishonest hack. If you can't say that for the first, 16 years of this guy getting government contracts, it was cool. But the second he starts saying nice things about your political opposition, we need to jump in there and do something about this. Oh, no. That's intellectually dishonest. And I don't know. Doesn't everybody else see this? I know you think that, but didn't you hear all the people clapping in the audience? Oh, we got to do something about this. We need to look into cutting some of his money. Okay, so that would be good cuts. You're not concerned about where's his next paycheck coming from? How's he going to pay for daycare? Now, when your political opposition, or at least perceived political opposition, loses their job, that's good. When all the soldiers, the poorest of the poor, soldiers get paid very little. When all of them got kicked out of the military for not participating in the vaccine mandate, you didn't care. You just cared when USAID people, when perceived Team Blue members get fired. That's when you care. Well, then you don't really care about poor people. You don't really care about workers. You don't really care about the least among us or the average worker or the average family. It's just all political hackdom to you. It's all Team Red, bad, Team Blue, good. If you only care when Team Red people lose their job, then you don't really care about people. You're okay with suffering as long as it serves your political purposes, and that's ugly. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a tax expert to let you know about some new scams. And if you're hearing from the IRS, you might not be hearing from the IRS. Details coming up on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.